Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Poetry Tuesday, my oft-neglected feature where we read contemporary poetry on this channel and talk about it together. I've learned a lot about contemporary poetry from doing this. Learned a lot from you. Uh, as a kind of response of my own to the what was typically my serio-comic shudder when I got a slim volume of poetry in the mail, because there's a lot of contemporary poetry that seems to me to be studied in its impenetrability. It seems like the a lot of contemporary poets want to be impossible to understand. And I know that's not fair. It might be true of some, but it's not. It's a broad brush, too broad a brush to paint the whole of the genre with. So I often worried that I'm missing stuff, and so I decided to do this, where we read contemporary poetry, a poem, and then if I remember, I try to print it down below, and so that you can hear it and then read it and then recite it yourself, and then we can all talk about it. And for today's poem, I have gone back to a poet that we've done before. Universally, you all said you either left comments or you emailed me. Keep in mind, I'm at st.donahue@gmail. Email me any time of the day or night about anything you like. But I loved the first poem that we read by this poet, and so did all the rest of you. So there was a clear, you were clearly okay with going back, despite the huge variety of stuff that we have to cover, going back just today to this poet again, or maybe a couple more times. The more I have read in this book, the more I have loved it. The poet is Eleanor Wilner, and the book is Before Our Eyes: New and Selected Poems, 1975 to 2017. That is the lovely. It's a paperback, and she is an award-winning poet who lives in Philadelphia. She's had 7 previous poetry collections. This culls from all of those previous collections and includes new works. And the poem that we are reading today is from a 1989 collection called Sarah's Choice. And the poem is called In Media Res. And the title refers to the classical name for a work that begins in the middle of things. That's what it means. And typically, the thing that was being referred to was the Iliad, Homer's Iliad, which does not start with either a golden apple tossed into the feast of the gods that is emblazoned with the motto "To the fairest," and it also doesn't start with the abduction of Helen. It starts long after that. It starts in the middle of a long story. It in classical times, that was a term for writers who decided to do that, who decided to plop you down in the middle of the action and just hit the ground running. And that's what the title here refers to, In Media Res. But you're going to love the rest of it. I think if you like the earlier book, poem that we read by her, you're going to love this one. So this is In Medias Res by Eleanor Wilner. And again, pardon, I am relatively new to contemporary poetry, and I'm not by any means a good poetry reader. You'll have to substitute my enthusiasm for any kind of skill. Here we are in the midst of things, the same longings for a body that would last, the same slow breaking down of what we are, and learn to love and lose. There are no fathers in the sky, no mothers in the earth, for who, if he had fathered men, would twist them till they bent with time as olive trees that, as they grow more picturesque, begin to bear hard fruit, and who, being mother to another being, would give it a taste of life, then, yawning, take it back again. And who's the fool who sexed the stars, fixed tyrants in the sky, anointed the staring sun as if it were a king, appointed the cold moon a virgin queen, dragging the helpless sea behind her like a train of panting suitors, and set the stumbling history of a tribe into celestial stone, so that we have to pray a comet down to rid ourselves of those whose madness put them on the throne, who buy with a legion's death a night or two of feasting in a rented hall. Who goes there weeping at the vast inhuman panoply of stars, or mourns the passing of the gods who, if something like ourselves, are more corrupt than any drought that merely signifies the absence of rain? Today let us build a temple to the stars we see above us now, burned out 10 million years ago, hosannas to the wind that shifts the silent dunes without intent, and the amen to the deep rot of the forest floor, the subatomic world we'll never see, the sweet collisions and the million accidents of time that gave us life, and all those miracles, indifferent and inhuman as the waves that Adam in his garden never dreamed, because they're no more kin to him than heaven is to kings, or what is natural to what is named. For What we love we can't call names. What calls to us, in medias res, that thick green sedge by the river, and we suppose it is a bird, though what it is singing. I will try to copy the text of that down below, but that is mighty impressive. I didn't know this poet at all before I got this book in the mail. I got the advanced copy. You saw me unpack it, and then I got the finished copy. I don't know contemporary poetry. I'm coming at it cold and blind. And that is unbelievably impressive work. That is just, I'm trying not to impose, my own. I'll be interested in hearing your reactions to that poem, but I find it hard to believe that anyone could read that and not be moved by it. It is essentially not even an atheist canticle, but an anti-religion canticle. Why are we bothering to stamp our own temporary existence, our own en medias res? We are here, we are plopped down in the middle of an ongoing and completely indifferent natural order. It does not know we're here, it does not care. Why are we stamping our kings on the stars? Why are we calling the sun a tyrant? Why are we imposing our own temporary ideas of human power on these things that don't know anything about us and will be here long after we're gone? It's just, I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. An amazing thing, so arctically pulled back from the usual preoccupations of poetry. I don't think I've ever read anything quite like it. So I don't make these poetry videos very long, so I'm going to wrap this one up. I want to recommend, again, if you like these two poems, you have got to buy this book. It's new, so it will be in your bookstores. It's called Before Our Eyes, and it's by Eleanor Wilner. If that poem doesn't impress the same people that the last one does, I'll be hornswoggled. And we'll do another Eleanor Wilner poem just to get a good read on this book. I think I read one from a midpoint in this book. This one is from fairly late in the book. I think Sarah's Choice is the last anthology that's excerpted in this volume. So maybe we'll read a very early one, and then we'll finish with Eleanor Wilner. So you will know one way or another what I already do. I would buy this book in bookstores, even if I had to, even if I had been driven to that, if I'm getting a review copy. But I really like that. That in medias res is like nothing else I've ever read in poetry. And like I like all poetry to do, it just grabbed my own view of the world and pulled it up and just sort of rattled it around a little and put it back down. I love it when poems do that. And I think that's why I go to poetry, and I found that in poetry that's 5,000 years old. So anyway, I'm just going to enthuse if I keep going. I picked that poem pretty much at random, and like I did the last one of hers, and it blew me away. So I want to know what you think, and I will try to copy the text down below. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.